What is going on, everybody? Voidlego here, back with a brand new episode of Higurashi When They Cry. What's up, everyone? We helped set up the Higurashi festival. We also learned all the murders and stuff, and also we learned a couple new things as well, such as a second person going missing is a ritual or tradition or myth that was used back in the town. So, yeah, let's just get right onto it. Also, thank you for all of your support on these videos. It seriously is amazing. So let's just go. Like,
本当に伝えたいのは違う言葉だった。本当に感じたいのは違う心だった。すれ違いが溝を生み、ためらいの気持ちが人を恐怖へと沈ませる。もう誰も止められない。冷たい感情がむき出しの心を深く残酷にえぐってゆく。綿流し。なぜあの時とつぶやく後悔の言葉。それはもはや虚しい響きだった。
The voice sounds very familiar. Also, it's the same thing that happened back in chapter 1 when in the Higurashi itself. Who is that? What does that mean?
ケイチくんだ。おはようなんだよ。だよ。
Lena was ecstatically waving her arms at me, already brimming with energy.
おはようってもう夕方だぜ。こんにちはだろ。
It's like 2.
でも今日ケイチくんにする最初の挨拶だからやっぱりおはようがいいな。いいな。
わかったわかった。じゃあおはようでいい。おはようレナ。
I grabbed Lena's head and rubbed it with my hand. She squirmed, reveling in the emotion like a cat.
やっほー、ケイちゃん。昨日は申し訳なかったね。黙って帰っちゃってさ。
ああ、それを言うなら俺の方が悪かった。
I was just listening to murder stories told by your sister.
ミオをずっと待たせっぱなしでごめんな。
昨日のお祭りの準備のことかな。どうだったケイチくん。しっかりとお仕事してた？
The slight muscle pain throughout my body and my sluggish movements were already obvious. Ugh.
頑張ってたよ。へばってたけどね。
I grinned dryingly, and the three of us broke out into laughter.
サトコとリカちゃんは祭り会場で合流か？
うん。リカちゃんはほら大切なお勤めがあるから昨日からずっと。さとこちゃんもそのお供だそうだからもう二人とも神社にいるよ。
Alright, I just remembered. Today was Rika-chan's big performance. So you'd been practicing especially hard for this day. As her friend, I needed to make sure I wouldn't cheer her on.
よっしゃ、早速行こうぜ。
The night sky. As we got closer to the shrine, we started passing by more people and seeing a lot of parked cars. It began to get noisier too. Thought I could hear something like a Bond dance song. Without being able to restrain my impatience, I dashed up the entire flight of stone stairs.
ケイチくん早いよ。待って。
たくケイちゃん、お子様なんだからな。
Whoa! The shrine grounds, they were packed with people. It was a festival if I ever saw one.
わあ、今年も立派だね。すごいね、すごいね。
Hinamizawa中から出てきてるんだろうな。ありゃ、君吉分家のおじいさんまで来てるじゃない。
Higurashi branch.
あのじいさん、去年の綿流しからずっと体調崩してたんだけど、元気になったみたいだね。
Yeah, there were a lot of villagers here that I didn't really know. They must have all been pouring in just for today.
あ、さとこちゃんだ。はーい。あら、皆さんでございますの。
ようさとこ、今日はすごい人手だよな。はぐれて迷子になるなよ。
Don't get trampled.
誰が迷子になるんですの？
Sadako too seems somehow energetic. Of course, I'm the same way.
あれ？リカちゃんはまだ自由時間でしょ？リカは村長さんたちと挨拶してましたですわ。すぐに来るでございますわよ。
I see. Wiki-chan is the shrine maiden for today's festival, after all. It's probably a pain for her to say hello to all the elders.
実に大変なのですよ。こんにちはなのです。リカちゃん。お持ち帰り。
Wiki-chan wore an immaculate shrine maiden outfit that looked fresh off the shelves. It was a perfect fit for her somehow mystical appearance.
どう？丈とか長すぎない？バッチャからもしも袖がかかるようならって安全ピンを預かってきてるんだけど。
大丈夫なのです。実に快適なのですよ。
As she spoke, she began to do some twists and stretches.
いいね、いいよね、これかいいよね。
And there goes his nose. There was an approximately one person here getting a nosebleed from watching Wiki-chan move.
ケイチ君はかいいと思わないかな？思わないならペナノになっちゃうからお持ち帰り。
すごく可愛いと思うぞ。かなりカス。不敬のふりをして写真を撮りまくりたいくらいだ。2点から撮影して立体視できるようにすれば、立体の生リカちゃんが自宅でいつでももとい眺め放題。
いいね、いいね、いいね。
Una's eyes and mine glittered with stars as our noses bled and rejeweled.
リカ、あいつらに近寄ると大変ですわよ。地下室とかに閉じ込められるかもしれないのです。
その割にはリカちゃん楽しそうだけど。
ミーがひどいことを言うのですよ。
We all laughed together again.
じゃ、もたもたしないで祭りを回るかね。リカちゃんの出番までそう時間がないでしょ。
そうだな。よっしゃ、行こうぜみんな。
Let's just go.
よー、園崎のお嬢ちゃんじゃねえの。食ってきな。豚肉たっぷりの焼きそばだぜよ。今年はイカリングまで入ってるボリューム派よ。
へい親父、今年の焼きそばもなかなか力作じゃないの。イカまで入れるとは今年は奮発してるね。
へえ、美味しいね、美味しいね。
ああ、イカってのは食ってもうまいが、それ以上に匂いが香ばしいんだよな。軟弱になりがちな歯ごたえも実に見事に補ってる。イカと豚肉のボリューム感は実に素晴らしい。悪くない出来だ。
へえ、ケイちゃんって何気に料理番組の司会とかに向いてるね。
ケイチ君が美味しそうに食べてると、なんだかいつもよりもずっと美味しそうに感じるもんね。
俺はうまいものはうまいっていう主義なんだよ。
It tastes good, it tastes good.
だから俺がうまいっていうものはとりあえず試してみる価値があると思うぞ。
ではケイチ、この焼きそばの評価を改めてどうぞなのですよ。
一言で言うとだ。
Good as fuck.
うまい。胃袋がもう一つあるんなら迷わずもう一つ買ってるな。
Having heard my 3-star rating, the whole line of people suddenly formed in front of the Yakisoba stand. Influence, yes.
お、すごいよ。ケイちゃんがあんまりにも美味しそうに言うもんだから集客効果バッチリだ。
So, this is what it means to be an influencer, eh? Not bad. Not bad at all. There's nothing to brag about, but I still decide to stick out my chest and put on airs. Mm-hmm.
あら、そうなんですの？では、私も挑戦してみましたよ。おじさん、たこ焼き一つくださいますこと？
Sadako bought a stick of teriyaki, balls of fried octopus from the Egyptian stand, and after blowing on it, puts one of them into her mouth.
どうかな、さとこちゃん。美味しい評価が出るなら、レナも買うよ。
Chomp chomp. Chew chew. Gulp.
さあ、料理評論家の北条さと子審査員のご感想をどうぞ。
Sucks. Though she was all for it a moment ago, Sadako hesitated to give her thoughts. Hey now, what's the matter? Everyone else takes one of their own and puts it in their mouths.
あれれ？
The fuck was that?
レナのは外れだね。僕のも外れです。タコさんが入ってないのです。
Just fried dough. This takoyaki vendor. Could this be some sort of summer festival only octopus free teriyaki stand? Naval takoyaki. Fucking Jesus. Takoyaki stand that skipped on the octopus because they figured it would make them good money today.
あ、私のには入ってたわ。うん。タコが入ってる分には十分うまいよ。
Cheap assholes.
このタコなしたこ焼きをどう美味しそうに解説すればいいんですの？
Everyone wondered about that. Our quizzical look seemed to be drawing an equally dubious stares of the people in line.
こんなのはどうかな？たこ焼きなのにタコが入ってないからとってもヘルシー。タコの嫌いな人でも食べられる美味しいたこ焼き。
That's a way to put it. After hearing that, several surprised guests left the line. It had the exact opposite effect.
じゃあ次は私が挑戦するよ。小麦粉やネギ、紅生姜の味などの素朴さをしっとりと味わわせてくれる自信作。タコが入ってない分だけ素材の味が程よく。
And they're gone. It wasn't half bad, but after hearing the there's no octopus in it clause, even more people left the line.
リカちゃんは何かいいコメントはあるか？率直でいいぞ。
これで400円は高いのです。
Damn. God, that was too honest. Even more customers were the line dealing a lethal blow. There were other teriyaki stands around after all.
いやー、なんかその私らとんでもないことをしてるような。ほら、さとこ、あんたが始めたことなんだからビシッとここで逆転させなさいよ。
無理でございますわ。タコの入っていないたこ焼きなんてどう褒めればいいんですの？
No, try. God, you idiot! Sadako's angry outburst was the finishing blow.
お客さんみんないなくなっちゃった。あれれ、おじさん睨んでる。
Yeah, we better get the hell out of here.
なんでだろう、なんでだろう。
There's no saving this crowd. Perhaps I, Kechi Marubawa-sama, will lend a generous hand.
圭一ならきっとなんとかできますですよ。タコなしたこ焼き屋さんを助けてあげてほしいのです。
笑顔でトゲのあることを言うな。まあ分かった。俺がプロの技を見せてやるからよく見てろよ。
Time for a salesman to go to work. I shoved the stick into an octopus West teriyaki and crammed it in my mouth. As before, there wasn't any octopus in it, but Mion's had some in it. That was the important point.
このたこ焼き屋の親父さんは本当の意味でたこ焼きが好きなんだ。いや、愛してると言っていい。
Everyone gasped in surprise. Grinning the teriyaki vendor staring glaring at
あ
us.
の親父さんは本当にたこ焼きが大好きなんだ。
I really don't.
大好きだからこそいい加減なたこ焼きを作りたくないんだ。そうだね、親父さん。
The teriyaki vendor looked down, unsure. Those watching were whistling intently, wanting to know why Octopus was teriyaki deserved such a high rating.
でもケイチさん、そんなにたこ焼きが大好きならどうしてタコなしたこ焼きなんか作りますの？
For he is too poor to have any.
たこ焼きに対する裏切りではございませんの？
そうだな、ある意味裏切りだ。だがこれは親父さんにとっての
Oh, he's
最
going
大限の妥協点なんだ。
to turn this around into a sob story, isn't he?
親父さんは今日だって本当のたこ焼きを作ってるよ。でもそれはこの中のほんの一つか二つでしかない。
Or change into a game.
まあそうだね。私の食べた一つにはタコは入ってたし、タコが入ってる分にはそんなに悪い味じゃなかったよ。
そう、それが本物のたこ焼きだ。それ以外のたこ焼きは8個入ってなきゃたこ焼きじゃないという一般人の先入観への最大限の妥協なんだ。
ケイチ君の言う意味がわからないよ。
He's fighting against the social norms of society.
どうして本物は一つで他は偽物なのかな？
その秘密はタコにあるんだ。親父さん、このタコ本物の明石のタコだね。近年明石のタコの水揚げは激減してとても高騰しているんだ。たこ焼きなんかにとても使えないようなとても高い値段になってしまってるんだ。
Then the man who had been working down this whole time mumbled.
ああ、そうよ。明石のタコはすごく高いんだよ。
でも親父さんは明石のタコにこだわったんだ。安物のいい加減なタコを使えばいくらでもごまかせるのに。明石のじゃないのに明石という上りを立てて販売してるインチキたこ焼き屋はいくらでもあるのに。
By God.
親父さんはごまかさなかった。嘘をつかなかった。タコは明石。この一点だけを堅くなに譲らなかったんだ。親父さんはたこ焼きを愛してた。だから嘘をつけなかった。
That's why he would never betray it.
どうしても一点だけ強いられる妥協点があったんだ。
それは何ですの？
数さ。たこ焼きってのは一船8個がポピュラーだ。いくら本物の明石のタコだからって言って400円で1個だけってわけにはいかないだろう。でも8個にしなくては買ってもらえない。だから親父さんは涙を飲んだ。本物のたこ焼きを1つ作るために残り7個に嘘をつくしかなかったんだ。
Whoa! The octopus-free teriyaki vendor burst into tears. I generally clap one of his shoulders.
みんなが何と言おうと俺はあんたの純粋さを忘れない。あんたこそは本物のたこ焼き屋なんだ。あんただけがたこ焼き屋を名乗っていいんだ。
Clap, 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 clap. As I embraced the shoulders of this man, shedding his manly tears, those watching delivered a round of applause, moved by my speech.
さあみんな、この本物のたこ焼き屋のたこ焼きをどうか食べてやってくれ。こんな純粋な男を大事にしなくてどうして本当のたこ焼き道が守れようか。
Troy.
みんなが食わないなら俺が食うぞ。
That was beautiful.
見てた人たちがみんな並ぶよ。ケイチ君、やったやった。
たこ焼きが美味しそうに感じたってより、ケイちゃんの味演説が面白かったからだろうね。
Sometimes you just need to get good marketing
ケイ
and
ちゃんって
showsmanship.
ガマの油売りとかやったらかなりウケるかもしれない。
スーパーの実演販売でもやればウケそうですよ。怪しい万能包丁とか売りつける仕事に向いてそうですわね。
Absolutely stunned at my successful pitch, the guy manning the stall next to this one called out to me.
おいおい兄ちゃんたち、うちのあんず飴も頼むよ。
I'll pay you like $50.
よし、要領はつかめただろう。今度はレナが行け。
よーし、頑張るよ。はう、あんず飴が冷えててとっても美味しいんだよ。水飴の上にね、ちょこってあんずが乗ってるの。はう、かわいいね。お持ち帰り。はう。
It looks like she lost herself in this midway through. Did she? I think she started at the beginning. But a girl given it such a natural place was itself bringing in some customers. A line was quickly forming behind Wena.
今度はお好み焼き屋だ。サトコ、行け。
焼きそばに揚げ玉入りでカリカリなのがとっても美味しいでございますわね。大きなベーコンが丸ごと敷いてあって、かじるとほらビローンって出てきて、はっはっはっ。
おお、うまいうまい。それなら俺も食ってみたくなる。
Sound good. Then a huge line formed out of my words. What on earth is this? So basically, all these onlookers are just following us around to all the stands.
みんなのを聞いてから食べると、いつもよりずっと美味しく感じるからなのですよ。
Fair enough. So that's it. Even Wika-chan was gouging herself on the food, getting sauce on the bib she put on to prevent her shrine maiden outfit from getting dirty.
よーし、おじさんも盛り上がってきたよ。よし、ケイちゃん、私はどれだ？
よっしゃ、ミオはさらにその隣の露店へ行け。ミオンの底力を見せてみろ。
あれ？でもケイチくん、お隣のお店は。
By the way, who the hell is Max? And what is this game about? Whoops! Goldfish scooping stand. A bit out of our element.
いや、部活の部長たるもの、相手が何であれ逃げられないね。やってみるよ。
ミオンさんのお手並み、拝見でございますわ。
The onlookers were also watching Mion with hopeful eyes.
いらっしゃい。はいよ、アミットワン。
よし、やるぞ。金魚はみんな生きがいいね。実に美味しそう。この小さいのなんかそのままボリボリと生でいけちゃうよね。
What is that? Mother, mother?
ミオンさんは何を言ってるんでございますの？みーちゃん、食べてたの？
Wait, was that fucking
去
Shion?
年レナからもらったのも食べちゃったの？
違う。私そんなこと言ってない。
Mion's face went red and she shook it vehemently in
いや
denial.
でも今ミオン、お前自分で言ったぞ。実に美味しそうだって。
ええ、確かに言いました。
God damn it, Shion.
お姉って雑食ですから、口に入れば何でも食べちゃうんです。
美味しいなら今度僕も試してみるのです。ダメだよ、リカちゃん、お腹壊しちゃうよ。
Wait a second. Hey, what the hell? Shion, how long have you been here?
はーい、ケイちゃんにお姉にみんな、こんばんは。あんたどこから湧いてきたのしよ。焼きそば屋さんの時からずっとです。お姉たちは騒がしいからすぐに見つけられました。もうあんたは関係ないでしょ。早くどっかへ消えなさいよ。もうお姉もあまり私を邪険にしないでくださいね。ケイちゃん、私が一緒でもいいですよね。
She asked, grabbing my arm and pushing her chest into it. Bounce. Great. And there goes
ケイチ
blood.
君、 鼻血出てるよ。
ところてんを押したらニューって出てくるだろ。
Okay, where is this going?
あれと同じだ。これは抗いようのない現象なんだよ。
へえ、そうなんですか。じゃあ力を入れたらもっと出てくるかな。
Oh no.
ぎゅ
Shion's her cleavage. It's right up against my drip.
シオン、あんたこら何やってんの。
不潔ですわ。見損ないましたよ。面白いのです。僕もやってみるのです。
Rika-chan's grabs onto my other arm too. Wub. A plentiful, plump feeling on my left shoulder and the sour sensation of a young, unripe fruit on my fucking right. Oh my god. Oh. And I'm dead. Boom, boom, bang! Xion, Rika-chan, and I, our faces now bruised, fell to the ground, limbs sprawled.
よくやったレナ。
みんな不潔なんだよ。レナに殴られたのです。痛いのですよ。リカは自業自得でしたよ。
I mean, yeah, fair enough. Sheesh. Now that Xion was here, the energy around us had increased by 120%. I'm gonna do a drink after that one.
お姉の友達は実に愉快です。退屈しないな。ああ、そう。あんたさえいなくなればもっと愉快なんだけどね。もっと一緒にいたいけど、あんまりケイちゃんを誘惑すると本当にお姉に噛みつかれちゃいそうです。だから私、一時退却しますね。また来ます。じゃあね、お姉。二度と来るな。塩負けしよう。
After teasing her older sister so much, Xion ran away into the crowd of people and disappeared. Well, that was a series of events.
なんだか珍しいミオンさんを見た気がしますわ。しーちゃんが一緒だとみーちゃんなんだかかわいいね。
Lena smiled happily, earning her a whack on the head from Mion.
アホなこと言ってんじゃないよ。次行くよ、次。
We went about just like that, wheeling noisily and lively to the other stands. We were paying money towards the beginning, but midway through the guys wanting satisfied we were just too funny, and then we ended up being able to fool around without paying much more. God, if only that would happen to me in real life. Thump! The vigorous sound of a big taiko drum echoed through the air.
リカ、そろそろ時間みたいでございましたよ。あ、いよいよなんだね。
Right, it's just about time for Rika-chan to appear in the offertory dance.
ちょっとドキドキしてるのです。
信じなって。自分、リカちゃんが流してきた汗は絶対に無駄になんかならないから。
Mion swept hard on Rika-chan's back.
そうですわ。リカはきっとやり遂げますわ。頑張るのですよ。その息だよ。
I balled my hand to a fist and raised it into the air.
応援してるぞリカちゃん。ファイトオンだぜ。
Rika-chan gave the best smile I'd ever seen and then pivoted on her heel and ran off.
じゃあ私たちも行こうよ。
As they say, hard work makes the dream come true. That's not a good saying. Didn't even whine.
そうだな。応援してやろうぜ。
Hard work makes something.
ダメですのよ。 演舞中は静かにしていないといけませんでございますわよ。
I got it, jeez. I loved a hand for her hair. She was worried about her good friend up to the end.
なら急いで行かないといい場所がなくなっちゃうよ。行こう。
Time to see this one more time. Mion went off and everyone else followed a moment later. A large amount of people had already clustered into the tight space to watch the edifying dance.
こりゃすごい人手だな。
Yeah, they don't want to get murdered. Turned around to look at everyone else, but nobody was there. Where did everyone go? Probably got lost among all these people. Finally, I spotted the back of Mion's head on the other side of the crowd. It definitely doesn't look like I can get over there. Well, we got separated. No big deal. We can just meet back up when Rika-chan's dance is over. Gave up on finding the others and wandered around, trying to look for a place where I'd be able to see better. It didn't take long for me to realize that I'd have to settle for watching between the heads of people in front of me, though. Flump. Once again, an even louder taiko drum resounded. This one was to announce the beginning of the dance. I couldn't say very well, but it seemed like Rika-chan had come on stage with the elders who were in priestly garb. I heard low exhalations of admiration and the seniors rubbing their prayer beads in gratitude. Everyone's heads were in the way, and I couldn't see. It was really frustrating. We should have cut playtime short and come here to get good spots earlier. After Rika-chan intoned the prayer, she took the festival hoe and walked to the pile of quilts stacked on the altar. That's right. The point of the ceremony was to purify bedding and to hold a memorial service, wasn't it? Then the solemn offertory dance began. She had practiced using a mochi pounding mallet. The awkwardly shaped festival hoe Rika-chan held seemed really heavy. Back and forth, up and down, it was absolutely difficult to even lift in the air, but she sweated and waved and raised and dropped it again and again. She couldn't just deal with it and do it grudgingly. As a shrine maiden, she needed to retain the dignity and solemnity present at this festival. There must be a ton of pressure on Rika-chan's shoulders right now. Damn, why am I cheering her from a place I could barely see her? We're French, where I should be right up in the best spot rooting for her.
ケイちゃん、こっちこっち。
Someone tugged rightway on the back of my shirt collar. It was Shion. She beckoned me outside the crowded ring of people. She had a mischievous grin on her face, and I took it as her saying she knew a good place nobody else knew of.
シオン、なんだなんだ。
黙ってついてきてくださいね。
Oh boy. After she told me so, she went in a big detour around the throng. Man, it's great to have someone who knows the way of the land here at times like this. Blessed though I was, I nearly lost sight of her right away. No more getting separated from me. I went after her so that I wouldn't be left behind. As I wandered in anticipation what kind of secret spot Shion had in mind, we left the crowd of people and went around to the back of the shrine grounds.
おいおい、どこ行くんだよ。これじゃあどんどん離れちゃってるぞ。
黙ってついてくればわかりますから。
Shion gave me a wink that reminded me of Miyana, she said though. No sign of people, not much moonlight. It was dark. We had gotten pretty far away from the crowd of people on the shrine grounds. How are we supposed to see Rika-chan's dance from here?
そっか、どこか高いところがあるんだな。屋根の上とか、そういうところから見下ろそうって言うんだろ
はい。なんで屋根に登んなくちゃいけないんです？
う。だってそうじゃなかったらどうやってリカちゃんの演舞を見るんだよ。
リカちゃまの演舞なんか見たかったんですか？ケイちゃん、ひょっとしてストライクゾーンものすごく低くありません？
What the hell do you mean by strike zone?
なんだか話が微妙に噛み合わないぞ。お前は俺をリカちゃんの演舞がよく見える場所に案内してくれるんじゃないのか？
I don't think it's that catchy.
はい。誰もそんな約束してませんよ。
What's going on? Why me? Why do I always misunderstand Shion? Is it my fault? Am I just reading the wrong things into it?
じゃあお前は俺をなんでこんなところに呼び出したんだよ。
With an expression that indicated she wasn't fooling around, Shion pressed her index finger to my lips and said slowly and quietly, This place is a dark, dead, empty spot. You can't see it from the festival grounds. Now a male and female of the same age are all alone together. Could this be? Shion, she's not pointing on something crazy again, is she?
あれを見てください。
Shion whispered, pointing into a dark underbush. There we saw two figures, one male and one female.
なんだありゃ。まさか。
Satomake and
密会の縄現場に決まってるじゃないですか。ほらほら、よく見てください。あれ、誰だかわかります？
I peered an intent way into the dark at Shion's suggestion. Oh, it's Tomiki-san and Takano-san. Trying to break in. The two of them were clearly breathing quietly and glancing around to make sure nobody knew they were there, as they crouched before the entrance to a wooden storehouse-like building.
まさかシオン、これを見せたくて俺を呼んだのか？
ケイちゃん、リカちゃまの演舞は毎年見られるけど、こういうのは二度とお目にかかれませんよ。
I had thoughts the Sonozaki sisters each had their own personalities, but at times like this, they seemed all too similar.
俺帰るぞ。二度とこんなのに呼ぶなよな。
今動いたらバレちゃいますって。
At our noisy argument, Takano-san suddenly turned around.
あらあら、どなたかしら？
We held our breaths and tried to wait it out, but it seemed like Takano-san was now acutely aware of our presence. Shion and I exchanged glances, then gave up and climbed out from behind the bush.
どうもこんばんは。
We weren't spying on you or nothing.
お月様の綺麗ないい夜ですね。あらあら、シオンちゃんに前原くんじゃない？こんばんは。月の綺麗な夜ね。
おやおや、圭一君も隅に置けないね。こんなところで二人っきりかい？だとしたら僕たちとんでもないお邪魔をしちゃったかな。
You're the ones who were meeting up secretly. Tomiki-san and Takano-san laughed to themselves and got on my nerves for some reason.
ってことは、富武さんたちは密会してたってわけじゃないみたいですね。
No, they were just breaking in.
それはもちろん違うよ。そういうロマンスも嫌いじゃないけどね。
残念だけど、あなたたちが覗き見したくなるような面白い場面じゃないのよ。期待に添えなくて申し訳ないわね。
そうじゃなかったら何してるんですか？富武さん、今扉の南京錠をいじってませんでした？
Huh? I think she said that. I looked at the two of them again, and I definitely saw it. They were hunched in front of a warehouse door, fitted with a pretty heavy-looking padlock.
バレちゃしょうがないな。僕たちが倉庫破りをしてたなんて内緒だよ。
内緒って、それ泥棒ってことですか？
It demanded unthinkingly just because of how absently Tomiki-san was grinning.
やあね。泥棒ってのは物を盗む人たちのことでしょ。別に私たちは物を持ち出そうとしているわけじゃないのよ。
へえ。じゃあ何のために鍵開けなんかしてるんですか？ここ開かずの西宮殿ですよね。
Want to take pictures, huh?
古出家とほんの一握りの人間しか入ることが許されないっていう。
That's why Tomiki always has a camera with him. They want to break into the warehouse, take pictures of the ritual tools, and get the hell out of there without actually stealing anything, so they don't leave behind evidence. But they got murdered in the other timeline, so, and I think they're going to get murdered now. So eventually they did found out. Forbidden storehouse. I took a few steps back at that and looked on the entire warehouse. Plus, it's the opening main menu, too. It certainly looked like one built we moved from many sites of people, almost as if it's secret. It It was filthy, revealing how little it was ever opened. And it was built to be durable, giving a strange, overpowering impression. Now that I've looked at it more closely, it was certainly different than normal warehouses.
ここはね、細具殿といってね、細具をしまっている倉庫なの。いえ、細具を祀っている神殿と言ってもいいかもしれないわね。リカちゃんが奉納演舞で使っている祭事用のクワも今日までこの中にしまわれていたものよ。もちろんフルデ家の人間以外は不浄を持ち込むから立ち入り禁止の不可侵領域、聖域なの。
Shouldn't we absolutely not be coming to a place like this then? However, Takano was wearing a childlike expression, an innocent smile at best, and terribly cool grin at worst.
私、Hinamizawaの昔語りや伝承を趣味で研究してるって言ったわよね。私の知的興味のさまざまな答えがこの中に詰まってるの。この中に入れるチャンスを今日までずっと待ってたんだから。
I don't think we're just going to find ritual tools in there. I think we're also going to find murder tools. A chance. Everybody's eyes were fixed on the dance at the shrine grounds today. This was the ultimate blind spot.
へえ。富武さんに鍵開けの技術があるなんて知りませんでした。
あ、よしてくれよ。僕だっていやいややってるんだよ。
It's all her idea, okay?
付き合わせてしまってごめんなさいね。でも、二郎さんのおかげよ。
Thanks to you.
感謝してるわ。
やれやれ。でも高野さん、こういうのはこれっきりにしてくれよ。
Okay, I was going to say, like, before that maybe Jiro was always coming here to, like, try to break in here, but I guess it's the first time.
こういうところに黙って入り込むのは、やっぱり気が引けるよ。
やっぱり二郎さんはいい人ね。
Kurt Tomaki-san undid the padlock and placed it to the side.
開いたよ。
ありがとう。いよいよね。
Takano-san gulped with an unusually excited air about her as she gave the heavy door a shove. The sharp smell of mold and dust flowed out from the gap in the doors. I had claimed curses didn't exist, but in this situation I could believe in them. If we went into such a holy place with our shoes on, it feels like we could be punished somehow.
どう？あなたたちも共犯なんだし。せっかくだから一緒に見学しない？
Well, we're already fucked, so might as well.
Hinamizawaの皮脂を埋める貴重な文化遺産の見物会よ。今日だけの限定会館。
別に俺たち共犯ってわけじゃ。
面白いと思いません？ねえ、覗いてみましょうよ。
God damn it, Shion, you're the devil on my shoulder. Shion said, predictably, winking her arm with mine.
でもこれは絶対いけないことだよ。神聖な倉庫なんだろ。細具殿って言ったっけ。ますます勝手に入っちゃまずいよ。
私は一応園崎の人間ですから、この中にあるものはおおよそ想像がついてます。でもそれはケイちゃんにも見てもらいたいものです。
俺に見てもらいたいもの？
I thought it was just a ploy, but Shion's eyes looked entirely serious. Of course, she was the sort who could lie with a straight face. Of course, I was an average boy, too. My curiosity was at least twice that of a normal person. Swiping forbidden treasures, never to leave this warehouse, chances like this don't come around too often. If I had to choose then, I want to see. Till the locked door is open, though. I don't know about this.
面白くないって思ったら、ケイちゃんはすぐに出ればいいです。きっと興味を惹かれると思いますけどね。
It's going to scratch at my skull. Tomaki-san spoke after listening to our discussion, himself having sat down in the stairs to take a short rest.
僕がここで見張っててあげるから。一緒に見てきてごらん。僕はあまり趣味じゃないけど、 ケイチ君みたいな若い男の子には結構面白いかもしれないよ。
He said, laughing mischievously. There was no ill will in his laughter.
富武さんはこの中に何があるのか知ってるんですか？
まあね。高野さんにたっぷり聞かされてるからね。
相方の特殊な趣味に付き合わされる殿方も大変ですね。
Tomiki-san didn't answer that, only responding with a pained smile. Takano-san had this kind of scary air about her, but she dropped absolutely everything else for something she had an interest in and go straight for it. But Tomiki-san, on the other hand, seemed like the gold standard of what a normal person should be. Having him tell me so frankly to go check it out suddenly made the guilt feel lighter.
じゃあちょっとだけな。面白くなかったらすぐ出るぞ。
You got it, Chian gave me another Mion-like wing.
決まったみたいね。じゃあ行きましょうか。
Well, we're probably going to get murdered.
次郎さん、留守番をお願いね。
Tomiki-san waved his hand to see us off. That's interesting. So let's say the exact same, kind of events happened in the other timeline. That Juro was the one keeping watch while, what was her name again? She has such a forgettable name to me for some reason. But in the timeline, he was the one injected with the drugs that led to him whipping out his own throat. And she was the one that went missing. So why would they kill Juro if he wasn't the one to go inside the warehouse? That's just quite interesting. The inside was pitch black, but Takano-san turned on the battery-powered lantern she brought, revealing a pretty cramped front room.
真っ暗だね。みんな転ばないように気をつけるんだよ。
ご心配ありがとう。じゃあ門番をよろしくね。
Don't worry, we won't set off the
ここ
worm.
閉
Maybe.
めるわよ。
Takano-san smiled spitefully, as if waving Tomiki-san out of something fun, and began to close the door.
やれやれ。じゃあみんなゆっくり楽しんでおいで。
The things I do for love. There was a low, heavy, and loud noise, and we were completely cut off from the outside world and covered in silent darkness. Takano-san's lantern was the only light we had.
大丈夫よ。予備電池も入ってるアウトドア仕様なんだから。
So going to get murdered in here.
消えたりなんかしないわよ。
Looks like Takano noticed my uneasy expression. I couldn't help but blush a little and avert my gaze. Deeper inside, there was a heavy and old but sturdy door with solemn decorations on it. It was the last door sealing away what was within.
ただの倉庫なのに前室があるなんて変わってるでしょ。一度に1枚ずつ扉を出入りさせることによって西宮殿の中が外に見えないようにする工夫だと考えられるわね。
They really don't want people to see these tools. Takano-san explained this, awfully impressed by the construction. But still, it's really dark in here. Huh? That, over there, I spotted a circuit breaker hanging from the clump of wiring, clumsily attached to the wall.
あ、これ明かりのブレーカーか何かじゃないですか？
No, that's the alarm system. I flipped the biggest switch I could find, and with a click, the pitch black room was illuminated by an old bare light bulb. Everyone scrunched up their faces at the sudden strobe-like brightness.
ダメです。
Before she even finished, Shion swept my hand and flipped the switch back. There was another loud click, and the room returned to darkness, with only the lantern for illumination.
いてててて。
ダメです、ケイちゃん。私たちここに忍び込んでるんですよ。
Yeah, fair enough.
明かりなんかつけたらバレちゃうかもしれないじゃないですか。
I'm scolded by Shion's fairly harsh way. Looks like she was worried about whether someone had seen them from the momentary light.
大丈夫よ。本当に一瞬だし。
Takano-san reminded a relaxed adult. It seemed like she was confident she could talk her way out of it if someone did see us.
さあ入りましょう。よいしょっと。
The even heavier door opened, and this time it wasn't just the dust that came out with the air. There was also a nasty smell. One smell was like opening a dust-filled cupboard in the back of a kitchen that hadn't been opened in years. And the other smell, the nasty one, was hard to explain, but it was like the raw odor of a fish market, a dead body, you mean. From how the sound echoed, the room felt far larger than the first. Takano-san held up her lantern and revealed the contents of the expansive room. At the back wall of the storehouse, right in front of us, was a Buddha-like holy object standing there, looking down at us. I was taken aback by its unseen force, lit up by the slender beam of the lantern.
あれがHinamizawaの守り神、お社様よ。
This is more of a fucking torture room. What the hell? Than a goddamn ritual. What the fuck?
社にあるのよりずっと立派ですね。
Oshiro-sama. So this is the spirit protecting Hinamizawa. The one guarding the holy land of Hinamizawa from the impurities of the outside world. And the one delivering punishment after punishment upon those who attempted to sully the land with the damned construction.
想像してたよりたくさんの細具が収められているようね。
As I said before, torture.
でも残念。どれもあまり手入れがされていないわ。
I think that might be for the best.
状態が悪いのが悔やまれるわね。
Even in the dim light, I could see a lot of strange objects lining the walls, ceiling, and shelves. Takano-san, speaking as if in a trance, was infatuated by the various implements filling the dark room. They weren't very festival-like or traditional, but instead, this was more like the workshop of a blacksmith or a carpenter. There were a lot of large wooden and metal tools packed in here. Putting it bluntly, it was all pretty boring stuff. I'd imagine there would be more artistic things in here from the Heian period, but there are a far cry from being cultural artifacts. My expression betrayed my dashed hopes, and they caught on right away.
あら、面白くないかしら？
俺は文系でも美術系でもないんで、あんまりこういうのを見てもよく価値がわからないです。
圭一君はよく分かってないみたいね。無理もないけれど。
Takano-san reached into a paper bag that she'd been holding the whole time, took out a worn scrapbook, and began to flip through it.
じゃあ、圭一君のために昔話でも聞かせてあげようかしら。
Oh boy, old stories, my
この
favorite.
地方では一般的な昔話よ。図書館に行けば教育委員会推薦の本にも載ってるくらいにね。
Telling stories in such a dark, creepy place? She must have a horror story in mind. Shion's face bellied nothing but calm. She had the same personality as Mion she had found fault with me being scared. I'll endure it for now and pretend to be calm.
いい？じゃあ、読むわよ。
Dune, Chapter 1. After confirming that I was going to be quiet and listen, she began to speak softly like a kindergarten teacher reading a picture book.
昔々、ある山奥の村にね、
The demon
沼
swamp.
があったの。その沼はね、底なしの深い深い沼でね、地の底の鬼の国につながっていたんですって。
The rumor said that it was deeper than the ocean, and that anyone it swallowed would sink into the underworld, a bottomless swamp. Its name was Onagafuchi. Wait, I thought back to the story I heard yesterday about the sacrifices sinking in the bottomless swamp. Could that be the swamp she's talking about?
ってことは、その村はHinamizawaですね。
察しがいいわね。そうよ。当時は鬼ヶ淵村って呼ばれてたけどね。
No.
鬼ヶ淵村。
So it was named after the swamp, huh?
物騒な響きのある名前だな。
イメージもあったんでしょうね。明治の頃に今の名前に改称されたって聞きました。
The name of the swamp connected to hell was called Onagafuchi, which meant the demon's abyss. And the true name of this village, Hinamizawa, was Onikafuji Village.
村人たちは鬼の国、つまりは地獄のことね。鬼の国とつながるという沼を崇めながら過ごしてきたの。
Huh.
でもね、ある日のこと。
Shit. Demons began to appear, one after the other, from deep in the swamp. The villagers feared that hell was overflowing. The demons mercifully attacked the villagers. They could only watch in fear. They could do no more than hide themselves and tremble.
で、誰かが鬼を退治するわけですか？
残念だけど、このお話には桃太郎みたいな正義の味方は登場しないわ。
Damn, no Superman.
じゃあ、村を挙げて戦うわけですか？
No, they probably did sacrifices to appease
ま
them.
さか。村人たちに鬼と互角に戦える力などあるわけもない。
じゃあ、村を捨てて逃げるしかないですよね。
それも無理ね。村人たちにとっても村は大切な郷里だったから。どんな恐ろしい鬼が攻めてきたからといって簡単に逃げ出せるはずもなかったのよ。
じゃあ、どうするんですか？滅びるしかないじゃないですか。
Unable to fight and unable to win, all they could do was wait for the village to be destroyed. Then, when everyone had lost hope, their god, Oyoshiro-sama, descended unto them.
なるほど。つまり、天からやってきたお社様が鬼たちをやっつけるわけですか。
ケイちゃんは男の子ですね。すぐに腕力で解決する方に走るんですから。
John sighed a little annoyed, bare as I held my tongue.
お社様はね、やっつけるとかそういう暴力的な神様じゃなかったの。もっと優しい慈愛のある神様だったの。
The strength of Oshiro-sama descended from the heavens couldn't be compared to that of the demons. They didn't even fight, they simply prostrated themselves before his radiant authority. Oshiro-sama urged him to go back to hell from whence they came, but the demons wept and challenged him, saying they could never return.
鬼たちの世界にも厳しい戒律があってね。彼らは地獄を追放された鬼たちだったんですって。
Demons, who didn't have a place to go, neither in hell nor in the human world. Of course, they were at fault for attacking the village. They deeply reflected on it, and were sorry.
村人たちも話を聞くうちに少しずつ気の毒になっていったわ。それでね、村のみんなで話し合った結果、鬼たちと一緒に住むことを決めたの。
Really? Huh?
退治するとか追っ払うっていう昔話は多いけど、共存ってのは確かに珍しいですね。
Isn't that something?
ですよね。鬼ってのは元来諸悪の象徴のはず。それとの共存を決めたというお話なんだから、本当に変わってます。
Or maybe it's supposed to symbolize that demons are always living among us. It's more a cynical take on it, but... When the demons first heard the villagers' invitation, they doubted their ears, but soon burst into tears of joy. The villagers had given them a place to live. It was said that in payment for this good deed, the demons shared their many kinds of power and secrets with the villagers.
お社様はその微笑ましい交流をとても喜んでね。鬼たちが村人と分け隔てなく暮らせるよう人間の姿を与えたんですって。そして自らも地上にとどまり、末永く両者の交流を見守ることにしたんだそうよ。
Peace, huh? A land in which man, demon, and god lived together. I had thought the word demon was a noun meaning evil that needs to be exterminated. A god may have meditated for them, but you don't often hear happy endings like that where both sides live in harmony. And I see. I guess it is kind of interesting.
普通のおとぎ話ならここで終わりなんだけどね。
Very interesting. So maybe these murders, I guess with the older generation, they view these murders simply as the demons going out and doing their thing, even though they don't mean to, maybe because it's in their nature. Or maybe this is why they don't like outsiders either, is because what if the outsiders find out that there are demons in this village, you know? It's very interesting.
このお話は江戸時代にだいぶ加筆されたみたいで、まだまだ続く随分と長い話になってるわ。
The Iliad. After that, the humans and demons intermix, and eventually there was no difference between them.
鬼の存在は結局村に溶け込んで消えてしまったということですか？
いいえ、消えたりなんかしないです。半分はしっかりと残ってたそうですよ。
The knowledge of the villagers had received from the demons basically made them into something inhuman, what people call transcendent. They were well aware the power they had was heresy, and as those below worshipped them, they lived out their lives in secrecy.
このお話がね、その後に派生するたくさんの昔話、フィクションの原点になってるの。だからこのお話がある意味基礎中の基礎。
So this is like the original like myth.
ベーシックね。
原点ってどういう意味ですか？
村人たちは鬼の血を引いているという部分ですね。
Demon blood, huh?
つまりこの辺りに伝わるさまざまな伝承や昔話は全部その村の人たちは鬼の血を引いているというのが前提になっているんです。
So that's why they called the village Onokafuchi, because the villagers themselves are part demon. There was a hint of amusement in Xian's face as she said that. It was like she wanted to say that she too had demon blood in her. Is there any proof though? Maybe it's somehow rooted in historical fact beyond just fairy tales.
あら。じゃあ前原くんは沼から鬼が現れて人間と交わったっていうのは本当にあった出来事だって信じてるのかしら？
Well, no, but it has to be like based on something because that's what every like myth and religion is based on. I mean, the Greeks created Zeus because of lightning, so, you know.
信じないわけじゃないんですけど。
When she said demons, she meant the ones from hell, but in ancient Japan, the word wasn't necessarily used to denote only that kind, right? The more well-known use involves the drifting foreigner theory. As the story goes, Westerners who were shipwrecked in nearby seas had such markedly different customs that they were called demons. Japanese people were relatively similar in appearance to other Asians, but everything about those from the West was different. Their physique, their faces, their skin color. In Japan, terms like red demon and blue demon evoke images especially of Westerners. Really? Lacking in skin pigments, Westerners would sunburn easily and turn red. Being fair-skinned, I think blood vessels appearing on their skin would look blue, too. That's true. A handful of accidental aliens would drift into Japan and came under persecution, being called demons. They would flee into the mountains to survive, turn into bandit groups, and attack villagers for food and the like.
なんて説はどうでしょう？ちょっと子供じみてますかね。
Takano gave me a weird smile when, having come up with such an impromptu hypothesis, I unconsciously followed up with a self-deprecation. Still, she didn't smile as if to make fun of me. So, I guess the thing it's based on, these demons, are just, in fact, Westerners. And that they had a place to stay in Hinamizawa. And, well, I guess every person now born in Hinamizawa is, like, part, like, Westerner. Very interesting, wow. I did not know that.
別におかしくないわよ。
That Westerners were called demons back in like old Japan, I guess.
実際に漂流偉人説を唱える人もいるもの。でも実際はどうなのかは誰にもわからない。
Huh.
山賊化した偉人の集団だったのか、本当に地の底から来た鬼たちだったのかね。
じゃあ高野さんはどっちを信じてるんですか？
真相は別にして、夢のある方を信じたいわね。その方が面白いでしょ？
Yeah, I guess. Her answer made her sound a wee bit like a romanticist. Here, I thought that she rejected realistic stories like that.
さて、いよいよここからよ。面白くなるのは。
Excuse me. Takano-san brought an end to her storytelling and waits for a moment as if to tantalize us.
Huh?
Suddenly, Shion looked around as if something had caught her eye. Her head bobbed to and fro like she was making sure nothing had changed.
どうしたシオン？
ごめんなさい。気にしないでください。
Shion pretended as though nothing had happened. Takano-san also made sure nothing had happened, then cleared her throat and launched into the next subject.
村人たちに
Bloached.
半分鬼の血が流れてるのは話したわね。実はその血なんだけど、鬼は鬼でも人食い鬼の血なんだって言われてるの。
Huh.
人食い鬼ですか？
So cannibalism?
急に物騒な響きになりましたね。
その血は今でも村人たちには脈々と流れていてね。
Are there Wendigos in this village? Was this until dawn? Fucking Wendigos.
時折その血が眠りを覚ますと言われてるわ。
Ooh, shit. I thought the fairy tale had a happy ending with the humans and demons living in peace, but it began to suddenly change into a brutal, bloody story.
人食い鬼だから何十年かに一度どうしても人肉が食べたくて仕方がなくなる周期があるんです。
Every decade.
だからって村人同士で共食いするわけにはいか
So
な
they
い。
eat outsiders.
だから彼らはその度に人里へ降り鬼隠しをしたと伝えられてるわ。
Okay, yeah, this is the event where
何ですか？鬼隠しって。
where people are taken away while the villagers looked away. Now we know the reason why the villagers looked away from it.
平たく言えば鬼たちによる誘拐行為よ。
Yup.
鬼ヶ淵村の村人たちが人里に押し寄せ、哀れな生贄を無理やり力ずくでさらったんですって。
Takano-san's explanation was plain and simple, but when I imagined what it must have been like, it was terrifying. They lose their human reason. The villagers turn into real demons en masse. They attack the villages they loathed and the dirty world of the masses below. And then they kill and eat their sacrifices.
それじゃあ鬼と何ら変わりないじゃないですか。お社様はどうしたんです？その村にとどまって人々を見守ってるんじゃなかったでしたっけ？
もちろんお社様も了承してたそうよ。
I guess turned a blind eye to it.
だから鬼隠しは無差別ではなく、神様が決めた生贄以外には誰もさらわなかったらしいし、
Not even a blind eye, he picked.
ほとんどの場合は一人か二人だったって記されてるわね。
The village inhabited by those both human and inhuman. It was like the heartwarming episode's colors had inverted, like a negative film, revealing the painful and ugly truth.
そうして生贄をさらってきた夜にはね、哀れな犠牲者を美味しくいただくため、綿流しの儀式が開かれたというわ。
Oh shit. Wanagagashi. Tonight's festival was the Wanagagashi. I just couldn't reconcile the fun festival with the horrible tale Takano-san was telling me.
綿流しは確か
Is the whole bedding thing just like a new thing to cover it up?
冬の間に使った布団なんかに感謝するお祭りじゃなかったでしたっけ？
ケイちゃん、綿って言いません？
The hell does wata mean?
臓物のこと。
Waha. Shion, who had been silent until now, spoke up.
綿？
Entrail.
そういえば言うな。魚の綿っていう。え？
Oh boy. Like a jigsaw puzzle, the fun times I had today and Takano-san's grotesque tale clicked together in my mind.
綿流し。
Gut spilling, oh my god. I didn't think saying that could ever feel so nauseating.
そう。前原くんの想像している通りよ。今でこそ綿流しは毎年6月に行われるちょっと早い夏祭りに過ぎないけど、昔は違った。
Different how?
哀れな食材をさらってきた夜にだけ開かれた。
嘘だ。
I had no real reason to say that, but I couldn't help it.
前原くんはさっき綿流しは布団を清める儀式だと言ったわね。
Yeah, when the hell did that change?
綿が詰まった布団って何を意味してると思うかしら？
布団は布団だろう。寝具、寝るための道具だよ。他に何の意味があるんだよ。
I was rattling on, desperately attempting to deny the horrible festival that Takano-san was describing. Deep down, however, I found myself understanding all too well what she meant. Futons, stuffed with cotton. If the cotton represented entrails in both pronunciation and meaning, then entrail-filled futons would have to be humans. Oh my god.
では、リカちゃんがやった奉納演舞を思い出してちょうだい。リカちゃんがあそこで何をしていたか分かってくる？
She was beating the cotton. Oh my god. Oh my god.
第一、リカちゃんの演舞は最後までちゃんと見てないし。
So if Khan represents entrails and she was beating them with a hoe, like, was it like mashing it up? Oh my god.
ケイちゃん、エキサイトしすぎです。
Chian grabbed one of my ears, reminding me that this wasn't somewhere I should raise my voice. Even so, I still can't suppress this agitation I feel.
リカちゃんが持っていた祭事用のクワ、もううすうすは気づいてると思うけど、あれは田畑を耕すクワではなくて、人間の腹をこじ開けるための解剖道具なのよ。
Jesus. I didn't see the dance all the way through, so I don't know what kind of performance Rika-chan was putting on after I left. When I told this to Takano-san, she kindly explained Rika-chan's dance to me. To summarize what she said, after what I'd seen, Rika-chan would pierce the futons with that hoe, cut them open, and pull out the cotton inside. She cut the cotton out one bit at a time and set it afloat. That's the kind of ritual it was.
平たく言えば、魚の綿を取り出して三角コーナーに捨てるのを仰々しく儀式仕立てにしたってことね。それで儀式はおしまい。その後はそれぞれの役割を持った村人たちがおのおのに肉を解体しておいしくいただいたって考えられてるわね。
At Takano's strangely happy giggle, I felt for some reason violent displeasure. Rika-chan, every day during our lunch break, she'd take a rice-pounding mallet into the schoolyard, and she'd work so hard, sweating bullets to practice for the offertory dance she had done today. All that effort, all that work, Takano-san disgraced it. Even though she worked so hard to practice for today...
高野さんももう少し言葉を選んでほしいです。ケイちゃん、ナイーブなんですから、あまりからかわないでください。
A moment before I opened my mouth to express how angry I was, Shion stopped me. Shion must have been fully aware of how that story made me feel.
ごめんなさい。男の子だからショッキングな話は結構好きかと思って。
Takano-san spoke without a hint of malice as she smiled gracefully.
この辺まで話を聞けば、ケイちゃんにもこの最後伝の中にどういうものがあるのか
So I
理
guess...
解できるようになってきませんか?
So I guess I was kind of right. It is a form of torture.
ほら、
Shion pointed out one of the walls vaguely illuminated by the lantern's light. There was, mere moments ago, they hadn't held my interest. They were just boring working tools lined up on the shelves. All those uninteresting tools that I didn't understand how to use. They all suddenly took on a new meaning, and I couldn't help but let out a groan. At first, they had worked like carpentry tools, like chisels or planes. However, when I fought back, I'd seen pictures of those sorts of tools before. Yeah, they came up in a Japanese history textbook. Yes, on the page introducing the Kaita Shinshoro, or the new text on autonomy.
こういうのはね、医学の本場ドイツの文献の方がリアルに掲載されてるわよ。
These aren't carpentry tools. These strangely shaped tools. They're for dissection. Everyone knows that in the Edo period, they would dissect the corpses of those who had been put to death in order to gain knowledge about Western medical techniques. Illustrations of the dissection tools they used at the time came up in the textbook supplements. The things hung up on the wall all looked exactly the same as those.
もっと怖い言い方をするなら、調理道具といったところかしらね。
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, Takano. Takano-san, holding a lantern, the only light source in the room, held this along the wall. She had the only light, so I had to walk after her whether I liked it or not.
ほら、
Takano-san illuminated a coil chain which left a bigger impression than the other things we saw. The chain itself was nothing unusual, but further along it were metal fetters that were like hinges, clearly meant for binding people.
ケイちゃん、あれ、
Chion tapped me on the shoulder and pointed to a restraining table that was clearly shaped like a person. My spine froze, my blood felt like it was turning into shale bits as it crawled up my back. On each of the joints there were things like chains and iron balls attached. It was like the table was searching for its next sacrifice, ready to spread their arms wide and close them in.
多分まな板じゃないかしら。犠牲者を拘束してこの台の上でお料理をしたんだと思うわね。
The word chopping block sent a jolt through my body. When I looked more closely, there were many dark slices carved into it, as though from a knife or saw. They were the most clear-cut signs of usage you could ask for. It proved that these tools weren't just for show. They were used for their original purpose. If someone was strapped tightly onto this table, they probably wouldn't be able to move even a muscle. Their guts would be defenseless. You take one of the eerie cooking knives lined up over there and stab them with it. And then you slice open their belly and dissect them.
話には聞いてたけど、すごい。
Jesus. Before coming in here, Shion had mentioned she had a good guess of what was inside, but seemed to have exceeded her imagination.
まだまだあるわよ。
So, these are all like stories, right? Of the festival and all that, but the thing is, these are real fucking tools. They've been used. So, brings up the question. Were they used for dissection of, hopefully, corpses? Or are we in a cannibalistic village? Let's find out.
どう？浪人業界より面白いでしょ？
Takano-san had this happy expression like she was visiting a toy store for the first time. I don't get it. This Mayo Takano person has nerves of steel. Are these bizarre, grotesque objects that fascinating to her? I, for one, was not enjoying myself. I'll be frank. This was all too weird for me. Still, there was something even more horrifying than all of this. That would be none other than Takano-san herself. Takano-san holding the lantern, giving off such a thin beam of light. If she suddenly turned it off, then what would I do when, the next moment, everything went totally dark? That's why I was scared. Takano-san had the only light, and anyway, I was scared. At some point, Shion had started holding on my shirt sleeve. It was a little annoying to walk like that, but I didn't shake her off. That minor sensation allowed me to feel the presence of an ally, here and now. Before we had even walked halfway through the storehouse, the air I felt on my skin changed completely. These cool tools lined up, all crammed together in this place. Some were horrible ones made to take away sacrifices' freedom, and some were tools made to efficiently disassemble and prepare the bodies for consumption. Those were just the things I understood. There were plenty of other strange-looking objects that I couldn't even guess the purpose of. Now that I was here, I didn't have the slightest desire to hear the details about what sort of terrifying reasons they were meant to be used for. At the very least, they were all completely different from the sort of clean, simple killing function of a katana. Tools to kill people were obviously constructed in such a way that they could kill people. If that was the goal, then the person used them on would obviously end up dead. The kinds of tools here, however, were different. The tools that were here were for cutting people, for crushing them, for boiling them and cooking them, and for grinding them. They were tools of torture. They weren't made to kill people. People dying was just an incidental result. Actually, they might not even kill them. If the sacrifices could die during such a horrifying ritual process, that would be nice, but they don't even die in the end. They remain in a state of hellish pain. Perhaps they were only being allowed to live. Only now in this moment did I fully realize just how terrifying and fearsome that difference was.
人ってね、上手にやると結構殺さずに済むものらしいの。
Takano-san, as if reading my mind, displayed a shocking smile.
魔女狩りで有名な家系。火炙りなんかはすぐに死んじゃうのよ。
Yeah, there's a difference between killing somebody and torturing them, and the tools
全
used.
身の皮膚が広範囲にわたって重度の火傷を負うと、組織の分解産物で中毒症状を引き起こし、重度なショックを併発しちゃうから。まあ確かにそれに至るまでがギロチンなんかに比べればはるかに長いところに残虐性があるんだけど。
She describes such horrors in a strangely medical way. Shion immediately answered the question I had.
高野さん、看護師さんですから。
Yeah, I just thought of that too. There's a saying that nothing can scare a doctor. I guess it's true. Fair
と
enough.
ころがね、ローマの時代の処刑方法にね、
Oh,
網
what it
焼きというものがあったの。
was it the pig one? Because I've heard the pig one was like the worst type of torture.
バーベキューと同じにね、金網で挟みつけて炭火でじ
Oh, no.
っくりと焼いたんです。
No, that's not the one I was thinking of. The one I was thinking of was the bull one. I don't know where they used it at, but the whole thing was, it was a bronze, like a bronze bowl that you were put in, and they would light a fire under it, and that you would slowly but surely literally burn to death while the metal was heating up in it. It's absolutely fucked up. To think the memories of when I went to a day camp with my family would come rushing back now of all time so vividly.
これだとね、どういうわけかなかなか死なないらしいのよ。ものの本によると、一昼夜かけて片側が炭化するくらいこんがり焼いても、まだ
Jesus.
意識があって流暢に話をしたなんて記述も出てくるから。
That's insane. You grilled someone the whole day and they'd still be conscious. It's said that ancient Rome, famous for their execution, thought of plenty of ways to execute someone while having the victim stay alive as long as possible.
その中にね、お腹を開いて腸をウインナーみたいに引っ張り出してウィンチで引っ張り上げて晒し物にする刑があったんですって。
Ugh. Shion was behind me, clinging to me. Not just because she was scared. She was protecting her stomach.
臓物を引っ張り出すなんて 聞いただけでもすぐに死んじゃいそうでしょ。でもね、丁寧に優しくやるとね、意識がはっきりとした状態のまま腹渡を引きずり出すことって可能らしいのよ。
Jesus. I felt a sick feeling in my stomach. It was like my organs were coiling up just from Takano-san's stare.
ウィンチで引っ張り出すっていうのはなんだか巧妙な方法だけど、もっと野蛮に裂いた腹から臓物をちぎっては投げちぎっては投げという、そんな恐ろしい刑もあったんじゃないかって十分に考えられない？でも処刑者には意識があるの。それは痛い以上に恐ろしい体験なんでしょうね。
She spoke with pleasure as if she had come here on a sightseeing trip. I heard Xian gulping multiple times near my ears.
Hinamizawaの、いえ、鬼ヶ淵村の綿流しもそんな感じだったのかしらね。ほら、耳を澄ませば聞こえてくるような気がしない？
What, the screams of the damned? I wanted nothing more than to not hear anything at all. So why only at times like these do I begin to hear things I shouldn't be able to? I don't know. Takano-san, having realized she scared Chion and I enough at this point, smiled soothingly. Then she turned on the hero, raised the lantern, and began to walk again. If Takano-san left us here, we'd get even further away from the light. Shion and I, no matter how scared we were forced to follow Takano-san along on her field trip through the ritual storehouse. Shit, man.
これで軽く一周できたかしらね。面白いところでしょ。
She says, raising the lantern high in the center of the storehouse. The dim lighting didn't change, but for some reason it felt like I was able to see all those horrible tools at once.
ケイちゃん、
Chion stammered while grabbing the nape of my neck. I couldn't tell because it was so dark, but there were a lot more tools hanging from the ceiling as well. They all looked like they were made of iron bars, but then I figured it out. Cages. For cages, they were very small. Cramped cages just for one, like a casket. If you got locked up in there, no, you wouldn't get locked up inside it. It was another tool meant for restraining people, where the iron bars would squeeze you tightly. All of the so many big and large things of all shapes were hanging down. Takano-san's mention of execution by guilt growing crosses my mind. We weren't just surrounded on all sides by these terrifying instruments. Things crowding the ceiling were even hanging over our heads.
ヨーロッパの拷問道具にこういった鳥かごがたくさん登場するわね。
I know there was one torture method that they would walk up somebody and put them high up and let the crows eat them over time.
日本にもあったなんて驚きだわ。
ケイちゃん、あれ中に入ってない？人？ミイラ？
え？どれ？
Shion desperately pointed to one of the many human-sized bird cages hanging from the ceiling, but I couldn't tell which one she meant. Being that dark, there wasn't any way you could tell if something was there in the first place.
私には何も見えないけど、見間違いじゃないの
Shion didn't seem convinced, but without a means to confirm for ourselves, we couldn't do much but wonder.
これで前原くんにもなんとなく信じられるようになったんじゃないかしら。Hinamizawaに伝えられる恐ろしい儀式の数々が。
It's got nothing to do with believing in them. Now that I've been shown the real thing like this, there's no possible way to deny it. I mean, yeah. Even the nations of Europe, with all their beautiful landscapes and legends, were like a maelstrom during the terrible witch hunts in the Dark Ages. It was well known that the era gave birth to countless gruesome forms of torture and execution. Japan was the same way. It didn't have its own era of hellscape torturous feasts because of religious suppression and things of that nature. Hinamizawa itself had such a period. It had that much history behind it. Even in Europe, ran of the witch hunts, that was all far in the past, no more than a series of historical events. And in this age, nothing that abnormal would ever happen. That must apply to Hinamizawa as well.
中世の暗黒時代とかがそうだったように、ひなみざわにも暗黒時代があった。そういうものなんだと解釈します。
I mean, yeah.
本当にひなみざわでこういう恐ろしいことがあったのだとしても、それは大昔の出来事なんです。
Hopefully, maybe. I don't know.
今暮らしているひなみざわの人々とは何の関係もないことです。
前原君は本当にひなみざわが好きなのね。
It didn't sound like she was making fun of me. Techno-san gave me a white smile.
でも高野さんはその風習が実は現代にも残っているんじゃないかと思って研究をしてるんです。そうでしたよね。
Shion suggested something that made my heart leapt into my throat. Are you telling me that all these horrible things are still going on even today?
これ本当に内緒なんだからね。しおんちゃんは理解のある人だから話したけど、他の村人には聞かれたくないの。下手をしたら罰当たり者ってことで袋叩きにされかねないんだから。
Oh yeah. Shion flashed a devilish smile as if reveling in the immorality of it.
前原君も内緒にしてね。知られたら私、お社様のたたりに会うか、生贄にされちゃうかするかもしれない。たたりなら、今年はどんな死に方をさせられちゃうのかしら。生贄なら、鬼ヶ淵の沼に生きたまま沈められちゃうのかしら。
God, you have the biggest morbid curiosity, Techno.
そういえば今夜よね。お社様のたたりがある夜は。
Techno-san said, bringing her face right close to ours, as if to say that if she had the choice, she'd rather suffer the curse. That was what she seemed to be implying. Takano-san took a fairly worn notebook out of her paper bag and began to flip through its pages. There were all sorts of references and newspaper clippings attached to them, and had all manner of things written inside. The letters were very small and bunched together, so I couldn't tell at a glance what it was about.
本当は国会図書館で当時の新聞を探したいんだけどね。ほら、ここ。
A photocopy of a page from some book was slid into the notebook, and it too was written in small, tight lettering. Like the other pages, I couldn't tell what it was about just by glancing at it.
これは実際にあったお話よ。明治の終わり頃にね、鬼ヶ淵村で身元不明の惨殺死体が発見されたんですって。
Mangled corpse? An old newspaper clipping attached to the page spoke of something that was no mere rumor or fairy tale.
当時の警察の資料がほとんど残ってないそうだから、口伝と記憶によるものだけなんだけどね。
Shit.
ほら、これ不鮮明だけど、明治の頃の新聞の切り抜きみたい。
Never before has there been a corpse treated with such cruelty and inhumanity. Could it be the work of a demon? Being a copy of a copy was very hard to make out, but it was more than enough to make me feel strangely tense. Near the end of the Meiji era, an old Onagafuchi village, a mangled corpse was discovered. The identity of the corpse was unknown. It wasn't even in a state where it could be identified in the first place. It was missing a head, and each limb was separated from the body. Skin had been peeled off the entire body, and there were markings that implied terrible torture in every place imaginable. Jesus. Not only that, but the belly had been cut open by a sharp knife with the entrails completely dragged out. The police immediately began an investigation, but since they couldn't even determine the identity of the victim, much less the criminal, finding answers was extremely difficult.
どういう状況かわかるかしら?
I couldn't imagine such a strange sight, even if I tried. This was the first time I was ever thankful for my lack of imagination.
被害者は生きながらにして全身の皮を剥がれ、あらゆる拷問を受けていじめ殺されたんですって。
Fuck.
そして死後にもさらに遺体を分解、解剖と残虐の限りを尽くしたのではないかって筆者は見ているわね。
Could say that again.
私はどの工程も生きているうちにやったんじゃないかって思ってるんだけどね。前原くんはどう思うかしら?
She spoke in a way intended to make me imagine even more vicious things. As my brain was already far over capacity, however, there was no way I could imagine anything more brutal. And when I broke my gaze from Takano-san's, those strangely shaped weird tools are around us. I wondered if you could faithfully reproduce a mutilated corpse discovered at the end of the Meiji era with the tools found in this place. I want to deny it. I don't want to admit that something so terrible could have happened at all. Even so, they were so strange, so terrifying, these tools, and as if they had seen through my attempt to escape from them, they did nothing but ridicule me silently.
その薄気味悪い事件が何だって言うんですか?
筆者はね、鬼ヶ淵村の恐ろしい習慣は明治以降の近代。ひょっとすると昭和初期くらいまでは残ってたんじゃないかって結んでるわ。
Shit. This corpse at a glance appeared to have been brutally killed after a period of torture. In actuality, however, it was the pitiful sacrificial remains of the man-eater's terrifying feast. The corpse was just leftovers. It was so fantastic, so strange that it didn't feel real. Was this an extension of the legends too? It happened in the Meiji era, though, which is just too recent to be called a legend. Also, there's a newspaper clipping right here suggesting it.
でも本当にあったとしたって昔のことですよね。明治なんて言ったらそれこそ100年くらい前の。
100 years ago, huh?
たったよ。たった100年前のことよ。それにね、昭和に入ってからだってあるんだから。
Shit.
終戦直後に騒ぎになった缶詰疑惑。あ、ごめんなさい。
The what? The canned flesh incident? Excuse me?
この話はタブーだったわよね。
Takano-san immediately stopped talking as if it worried about Shion. Shion briefly looked somewhat angry, but the expression soon disappeared.
え？今高野さんなんて言いました？
What the hell is a canned flesh incident?
缶詰疑惑って。
Just then, there was a huge creaky noise. Everyone whipped around to look. It was Tomiki-san, who had just opened the door slightly.
驚かせちゃったかな?
あら、二郎さんも見たくて我慢できなくなったかしら?
I mean, yeah, that's the way to put it.
僕は遠慮させてもらうよ。
Thank you, someone normal.
生来ね、こういうのは苦手なんだ。
Takano-san held her stomach and had to muffle her laughter as if she wanted to make a comment about his masculinity.
それより、演舞とセレモニーが終わって、みんな沢の方に降りていったよ。あと何分もしないうちにお祭りは終わっちゃう。
あら、いけない。前原くんがあまりにも聞き上手だから、またお話三昧になっちゃったわ。
We're not going to hear about this goddamn canned flesh incident. I mean, what the hell is canned flesh? I would really rather you not mention me in a place like this.
二郎さんは表で待っててくれるかしら? 私はちょっと写真を撮るわね。本当はいくつか道具を持って帰りたいんだけど、それはさすがに無理そうだからね。
Takano-san took her camera out of her paper bag and began to snap photographs. She looked like she was having fun, like she was on a scavenger hunt.
ケイチ君も出るかい？
もう十分に見ましたので。シオン、もういいだろう。出ようぜ。綺麗な空気が吸いたいよ。
Okay, so how does this legend tie in with the director? And the drugs. How the fuck does that tie in? God damn it.
同感です。出ましょう。
I did feel a bit of hesitation on leaving Takano-san by herself in this darkness. When I thought about it, though, I realized that whatever kinds of evil spirits and ghosts worked in the darkness, none of them could hold a candle to how scary she was. Even if a phantasm were to appear, she'd be overjoyed and flash her camera at it. It seemed like Shion shared my somewhat rude mental images. We exchanged glances and smiled painfully. We left Takano-san there, bathed in her strobe of camera flashes, and decided to go leave the ritual storehouse. Happy days, yes. Everyone at the festival seemed to have gone to the stream, so their voices were very distant. The voices of the bugs, on the other hand, were clear, lending an empty feeling of isolation to the place.
どうだい？面白かったかい？
Tomoki-san gave us a somewhat mischievous grin. He should have been able to tell by looking at how pale our faces were.
富武さんと一緒に留守番をしてればよかったです。
Tomoki-san laughed so delightfully that it wiped away our dark feelings.
シオンちゃんはどうだったかな？怖かったかい？
一応心の準備があった分怖くはなかったですけど、でもやっぱり実物は迫力あります。
Shion spoke like she wasn't scared at all. She really had been quite afraid, but seeing as how I was in a way worse state than her, I didn't have much room to talk. As Tomoki-san grinned candidly, my mind, exhausted and locked up by nervousness, began to calm itself.
高野さんはおとなしく見物してたかな？ほら、彼女子供っぽいところがあるだろう？宝の山を前にさぞや興奮してたんじゃないかと思ってね。
Both Shion and I laughed and left that as our answer.
見るだけならいいんだけどね。こっそりと何かを持ち出したり、いじくりすぎて細具を壊したりしないかが心配なんだよ。
Nah, she tried to do a, demonstration of what it would be like, so, nothing too bad. Alright, that's quite possible. She is alone in there right now. She might pilfer something small and easily concealed, hiding it in her pocket.
やりかねないです。
Shion said what I was thinking.
本当に何も壊したりしなかったかな。なんだかドタンバタンと飛び跳ねるような音がよく聞こえたからね。僕は不安で。
Jumping up and down.
ごめんなさい。フィルムがなくなっちゃったわ。ジローさん、フィルムが余ってたら分けてくれないかしら。
Takano-san suddenly appeared while we were talking about her, taking everyone by surprise. Tomoki-san smoothly grinned and responded as if nothing had happened. He's pretty mature.
もう予備のフィルムは切れちゃったよ。申し訳ないね。
もういついかなる時でもフィルムを残しておかないと決定的スクープ写真なんか撮れないわよ。仕方ないわね。
Tomoki-san scratched his head apologetically. Without film, we're done here. Takano-san seemed to have given up because of that too. We checked carefully to make sure we hadn't left anything inside, then closed the door and turned to the heavy padlock we left beside it.
高野さん、何も持ち出してないだろうね。
失礼ね。そこまで子供じゃないつもりよ。
Quick. Tomoki-san set the padlock. Padlock? What the hell is a padlock? A padlock back to the way it was before. From a cursory glance, it didn't look like thieves had snuck in at all.
よし、僕たちも沢に行こう。綿を流すところくらいやらないとお祭りに来た意味がないよ。
Tomini-san spoke widely, urging us all on, setting cotton and float down the stream. I shook my head a few times, driving away my dismal thoughts as to the double meaning. Takano-san, looking a little let down, kept turning back to glance at the ritual storehouse.
もうこれっきりにしてくれよ。十分に知的好奇心は満たせただろう。
まさか。むしろ新しい興味を惹かれるような発見ばかりよ。
It's gonna get you killed, Takano. Literally will.
これまでの仮説が一気に現実になったわ。これで今後の調べ方がだいぶ変わってくるんだから。
Wow, she's truly indomitable. Her curiosity really is something else. Still interested in all this, through and through. We descended the stone stairs, and all the people crowding the stream came into view. Near the bottom of the stairs, we could clearly see people receiving cotton that had been cut out for them, then wishing upon the cotton and setting it forth down the stream. The festival was already over.
まずったな。綿流しの一番いいところを撮影し損ねたよ。
あら、まだ遅くないわよ。私が行って流すんだから。私を取ってはくださらないのかしら？
Takano-san, with an impish expression, bowed her head to Tomiki-san's shoulder. Despite his age, he looked embarrassed. I felt an honest respect for Tomiki-san, man to man, for dating such a handful of women.
じゃあね、前原くん。しおんちゃんも。
僕たちは今からでも沢に行ってみるよ。君たちも一緒に来るかい？
まさかお二人の邪魔なんてできません。どうぞごゆっくり。
Shion waved her hand to them with an expression just as impish as Takano-san's. Women. Tomoniki-san, on his part, seemed to want us to come, but whatever. Shion gave a big stretch and sat down on the stone steps.
疲れちゃいました。
同感だな。俺も疲れた。
ケイちゃんは綿流し初めてなんですよね。
Technically second.
私なんか気にしないで行ってきてください。私は疲れちゃったんで、人混みはちょっとパスしておきます。
Yeah, if we were to go now, we'd barely slip into the end of the cotton drifting ceremony.
お姉たちがケイちゃんのことを探してるかもしれませんから。行ってきてください。
あ、そうだ。ミオンたちと別れたままそれっきりだったな。探してると悪い。
Then Shion suddenly got a playful look on her face, then put her index finger to her lips as if telling me to keep this a secret.
お姉ってすっごく嫉妬深いんです。
Could tell.
私がケイちゃんを独占してたことがバレるといろいろうるさいんで、今夜のことは秘密にしておいてくださいね。
Keep tonight a secret. Don't say things like that are so embarrassing.
そういう意味だけじゃないですよ。今夜私たちがしたことを思えば秘密にするのは当然です。
Yeah, we're probably going to get murdered.
今夜起こるかもしれないお社様のたたり。私たち4人が最有力候補なんですからね。
Oh, don't worry, it's only just two. So, either one of us. The whistling friends of tension became taut again. Shion, however, burst out laughing.
じゃあ、私はお姉に出くわす前に退散します。今日は本当に疲れてるから、お姉とやり合えるだけの体力はないですし。
シオンってミオンと仲がいいのか悪いのかよくわからないな。
Siblings.
仲いいですよ。
Though as she said that, her vague expression explained that there are a lot of oddities in the relationship between twins.
俺は一人っ子だからよくわかんないな。せいぜい仲良くしろよ。
はい、余計なおせっかいと承ります。それじゃあ私はこの辺で。ケイちゃんも急いで行った方がいいですよ。本当に綿流しが終わっちゃいます。
Shion stood up and brushed the dust off her backside. After watching her do so, I returned my eyes to the final ceremony of the Wanakagashi Festival below me.
でも本当にあの音は何だったんでしょうね。不愉快というか、気味が悪いというか。
Let the bells ring, you know.
え、何の音だって？
音ですよ。ドタンバタンって。
Banging noise.
うるさかったじゃないですか。
I was giving her a blank expression, so Shion stared hard at me. I stared hard at her too.
ごめん、シオン。はしょらないで最初から説明してくれないか。何がうるさかったって？
ケイちゃん、あれ気にならなかったんですか？
When all said and done, it was like we were speaking two different languages.
シオン、冗談抜きで初めから説明してくれないか。音がどうしたって？
ケイちゃんこそ冗談抜きで本当に気にならなかったんですか？
Neither of us was giving any ground, and both of us were staring at each other in disbelief. We were answering questions with more questions with no sign of an actual conversation in sight. Baffled, I held in the urge to shout at her and ask politely one more time.
もう一度聞くからな。質問は俺からだ。
Shion nodded silently.
じゃあ聞くぞ。音がしたって何のことだ？
Didn't hear any sound.
ドタンバタンって、なんだかどこか遠くの板の間で子供が跳ねてるような。
Tomoki-san said the exact same thing.
本当に気にならなかったんですか？
気にならないも何も。
But we
そんな
didn't
音いつ
hear
聞こえ
it.
た？俺は何も聞いてないぞ。
Wait.
ちょっとケイちゃん、それ本気で言ってるんですか？
Wait. If both Shion and Tomike heard it, but Takano and Kechi didn't hear it. What? Shion, as if she didn't understand my plain and simple answer, pressed me further, her expression serious. I have no clue what she's talking about, but if it was Shion acting so like this, whatever it was, it gave me the creeps and sent a chill down my spine.
さっき最後伝の中で高野さんと一緒に見て回ってる最中、高野さんが昔話を始めた頃からかな、少しずつだんだんとちょくちょくと。
She heard a banging sound like a child jumping on distant floorboards.
嘘だろ？最後の最後で怖がらせるのはなしだぜ、おい。
I didn't hear anything at all. In fact, it was so utterly silent in there that my own heartbeat was almost deafening.
ケイちゃんこそ怖がらせないでください。
The hell?
なんだか高野さんの怖い話に合わせて音を立ててるようで、私ずっと薄気味悪かったんですから。
The chill rose from my spine to the back of my head. My blood turned cold as it crawled up my body. When it reached my head, my mind froze over.
ケイちゃんも高野さんも全然意にも介さない風だったので、私も聞こえないふりをずっとしてましたけど、聞こえましたよね。何度かはすごく大きな音でしたから。
The hell? Shion's eyes were begging me to tell her I heard it. I had no doubt, however, that my own eyes suggested something entirely different. A "you've got to be kidding" look. In that storehouse, we were surrounded by brutal ritual tools that looked like they were from another planet, listening to terrifying old stories. The whole time, Shion had been hearing a sound that we couldn't hear by herself. Should that make Shion, who heard it, tremble, or should it make me, who didn't hear it, tremble? I didn't know the answer to that at the time. For now, Shion seemed to have made that decision before I did.
ケ
なんだよ突然。
引っかかりましたね、ケイちゃん。嘘ですよ。嘘。
Bullshit.
はあ
Shion laughed, saying how easily scared I was, and clapped me on the back. Her smile seemed somehow artificial and actually made me feel worse. Then, after leaving me with 2 or 3 genetic diplomatic goodbye phrases, she wept, almost like she was running away. All I could do was look after her, my mouth agape. At the end of the day, I didn't have a clue what was going on. Shion laughed it off and said she'd been lying, but she couldn't possibly have been lying. Of course not. And now that I think back, Tomiki-san said the same thing, didn't he? Exactly.
なんだかドタンバタンと飛び跳ねるような音がよく聞こえたからね。僕は不安で不安で。
Tomiki-san, the most neutral party present at the time, had said he heard something. Then, that noise, it was real? The banging sounds as though a child was jumping up and down on some kind of floorboards far away. Oshio-sama's curse, which happens every year, might happen again tonight. The most plausible victim candidates were Takano-san, Tomiki-san, Shion, and me. The bustling of the people sounded further away than I would have liked. The sounds of the insects sounded too close for comfort. I'm near so much human warmth, and yet I can't ever go back there again. That was the ominous idea that sprouted in my mind. Then, all of a sudden, I was pounced on from behind, causing my heart to lurch.
ケイチ、見つけたなのです。
Jesus. It was Rika-chan. When I turned around, Mion and Wena were there too.
やっと見つけた。あとはさとこか。
今年はみんなはぐれちゃったね。来年からはちゃんと合流場所を決めておきたいな。
そうだね。やっぱりお祭りはみんなと一緒でないとね。
I listened to Mion's happy declaration with a little bit of guilt.
ケイチは僕の演舞はちゃんと応援してくれましたですか？
ああ、ちゃんと見てたぜ。最後までちゃんと頑張ったな。ミスもなかったし。
うん、そうだよリカちゃん。あんなのはミスのうちに入らないよ。
Wait, huh? I tensed up as I realized I made a mistake of my own. Mion swept a hand on my shoulder a little roughly. A gross sweat broke out over my whole body.
ケイちゃんはやった？
Huh?
綿をもらって沢に流した？
You haven't yet, right? Is what I could feel her saying. Without the courage to tell any more lies, I lifelessly shook my head.
あれ？そうなのケイチくん。早く行かないと終わっちゃうよ。終わっちゃうよ。
ごめん。初めてのお祭りだからさ。よくルールがわからなくて。
そうだったね。ごめん。
Mion took my hand and we started walking down the stone steps.
ねえケイちゃん。
なんだよ。
Why am I tense all of a sudden?
シオンには合わなかった？
Okay, thank God. My heart skipped another beat. Maybe Mion could sense my surprise from my hand.
いや、でも、姿を見たような。でも、ミオンとそっくりだからな。ミオンだったのかもしれないし。
そんなに間違えないでしょ？服装だって違うんだから。
Yeah.
そうだよな。
Mion's momentary silence was like a death grip upon me.
しょうがないな、シオンは。まあ、あいつのことだから、放っておいても大丈夫かな。
Mion's expression returned to her former usual smile, and we continued down the stone steps, her firmly pulling my hand along. shit. Oh, fuck. Hey, new tips. Cool. But damn, we're running. This is 2 hours long. Goddamn. So yeah, let's end this quickly. This was a great episode anyway. So, if you like this type of content, hit that subscribe button. If you liked it, hit the like button. Want to tell me something? Put it down in the comments below. Want to check out the Discord server we're hanging out in, or my Twitter? Check the description below. And yeah, this has been Voidlego. I'll see you guys next time. See ya!
Have you ever wanted to play? You could meet people and kick them in the face. Well, I got news for you.